How do you deal with trust being broken in a relationship? My partner and I have been together since we were 17. We have dealt with infidelity, but shared a very profound awakening while on a plant medicine ceremony and realized what we need to work on and how we need to show up for ourselves in the relationship. We also felt strongly that we are here to work through our soul contract to not repeat the same patterns of karma. It has been quite the journey, and I'm curious if you two have ever dealt with any sort of infidelity. How do you rebuild the trust, confidence, etc.? Even if you haven't, I'm curious to hear what you think. Well, we've dealt with all of these things, getting together very young, being together for a long time, dealing with infidelity, trust, and knowing that we are meant to be together and we're here to work through our shit together, like having like very real realizations in that regard. So, when she says like, have you had any experience with any of this? It's like, yeah, that's like our exact story almost. And so, we don't need to necessarily get into like the nitty bitty details. We don't need to get into like all the details, but just, yes, we've dealt with this in our first marriage. I was at a very, very low place and was unfaithful, and it was just a really hard time for both of us and myself, and we divorced for 3 years. And when we got back together, this was obviously one of the like major conversations that we needed to have. And we did, and we were able to work through it. And I'll let you speak to your own experience. But when she asks, how do you rebuild the trust and confidence, etc., I can only speak from my perspective, my point of view as someone who's like coming back into the relationship and basically like feeling like I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I'm fucking in this. And so when we got back together, I made it very clear that like, whatever you need, whatever the relationship needs, I'm willing to do. And you're worth it to me. And I'm willing to work on this however we need to. And I'm not interested in being with anyone else. And I made it very, very clear that I was fully invested into the health and growth of the relationship. So I think that's something that can't be overlooked, because if the person who was unfaithful comes back into the relationship and they don't have that attitude, like whatever you need, you're worth it to me. Like I'm going to do this. And they're sending mixed messages, or you're just not really sure about their commitment level, that's not a good sign. I think for it to work, you need to be fully invested and committed to the health and growth of the relationship, no matter what the other person needs. Like they're kind of in the driver's seat with like, what does it look like? What do you need from me to rebuild this trust? So that's my perspective. And I just made it very clear at the beginning that the only thing I can do to like prove myself is to just keep showing up and to keep reminding you that like, I'm fucking in this and I'm going to do whatever we need to do to make this work, because I don't want to be with anyone else. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Not my favorite
headspace
to be in.
I've been avoiding these types of questions just because it's like, it's not fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's not fun to talk about. It's the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. And I have no interest in like making you feel bad about it. Here we are, 8 years later. So with all of that, also trying to, help this person, we had the advantage of getting divorced immediately after I found out about it and spending 3 years apart. And there's a scale of infidelity. There's like, I kissed somebody, and then there's, you're gone all the time and absent and I developed a relationship with somebody else. And that's almost sometimes like understandable, And then there's like outright just brutal shit. And those are the ones that are really hard to process, digest. I would say that I would imagine it's easier when someone comes forth with a desire to tell the truth, and it's like weighing on them so much that they have to just like get it off their chest. It's harder. I think that's a better starting point to work through infidelity than the other person finding out. Mm-hmm. That is such a painful experience that you have to have gone through it to know. And then so for me and the way that I processed all of this, I had 3 years of being alone, absolutely no closure with you whatsoever, not even a mention of it. We split up with you not knowing that I knew, with me not bringing up to you that I knew. And I just had to sit on it and figure out what to do with it, which took every cycle of denial, rage, anger, revenge. But ultimately, I just found myself in this position that was like, what am I doing this for? What am I torturing myself for? There were lessons to be learned. There was pain that was had. But what am I going to just allow myself to just keep an open wound for the rest of my life? And so prior to having any awareness that we were going to get back together, and I would say to this person, prior to any contemplation of your future with your significant other, how is your wound? Like, are you addressing the wound? Are you working on healing that wound? You don't need that person to heal the wound. You don't. And in fact, I didn't. I got to the place that I felt like I was capable of living the rest of my life with this healed wound that didn't include a ton of bitterness and a desire for revenge and deep anger, shame, emasculation. The list goes on and on. And so take some time to even just ideate as to whether or not you can heal on your own. And to me, I just got to this place where I was like, I am not going to live the rest of my life with a limp. This makes absolutely no sense. It's not logical. This is a low vibration way of living. And so for me, it took an act of constant meditation upon forgiveness and moving on, regardless of what you were able to do or not do, because we had no relationship at that time. And so I chose to move on. I chose forgiveness. And I didn't feel it for a while, but slowly and surely, with a real meditative practice, with specific changes in my life to where I just decided to lighten the load and not carry this thing into my relationships and my conversations and my workplace, I slowly but surely got to this point where I was like really thriving. And although it was still there, like I felt like the wound had closed up to a certain degree. And, sure enough, that's when we got, about the time we got back together. And so by no means was I like, oh, I'm in the clear. We should be fine. I think you were able to, if we're going to continue with this metaphor, add some like ointment to the scar, and the scar tissue was lessened, and the healing, started to take place even more so that the scar was significantly less visible. But I don't know if it ever goes away. And because we've had 5-6 years now together in part 2, and we've been through a lot as it pertains to closing this wound, it's not that I don't trust you at all. I trust you more than anything in the whole world. And it's not that you've ever given me, it's not that I was like, you need to do the following things in order to get back into trust with me. I just chose to trust. And then you've done absolutely nothing but, hit home runs as it pertains to being trustworthy. So that's actually not problematic to me. So if this person's in a relationship with someone who's cheated on them, and they've worked through it to a certain degree and are seeing no signs or no evidence, or don't have that like, man, I can't trust this person type feeling, don't put yourself through hell.
Yeah. If you don't see any red flags, don't create them.
No.
Yeah.
But I would also say that just because you trust your partner now doesn't mean that trust won't be a problem for you in other lanes of your life. So for me, we've had literally no trust issues in part 2. But I have a hard time trusting anything, anybody, myself. And so the fuck for me has been that I have a serious wound on the machinery that allows me an ability to trust things.
Yeah, on the trust button.
And so it's every lane of my life. It's every person that gets close to me where I go, oh, I don't know. I can't let this person get close. I don't trust my own decisions at times. I have, as we've started a family quite literally and thought about that, these things resurfaced. As you change, the way that you perceive those wounds becomes different. You see perspectives and angles of it that hurt more at 34 than they did at 29 when we got back together. And then I get, your meat suit doesn't forget. So you get things like dreams that are just takes you right back into the pain. Or you do a plant medicine ceremony, and for whatever reason, the experiential wave of what that felt like comes back to you, and you just are in such pain for your younger self. And it's like, I have no interest in putting that in front of your face, because that would be horrible. And it's just a terrible way to live, is to like remind you of this, while it also is still something inside of me that I have to address and deal with. And it's a very weird thing. And I'm sure this person can relate, where you've had something traumatic happen to you, and it's something that you have to, even if you've cleared it to a certain degree, readdress at some point in your life, because it'll come back up. It's hard not to share that with your best friend, your confidant, the person that you love the most, because they were the one who participated in that wound. And so it's a very weird thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I have to navigate. There's been times where I do share with you and you're just really incredible about it. And other times where I just go like, not worth it. I'm just going to ride this one out and just keep going. But ultimately for me, it's like, it's such a rational, easy decision, because I'm able to evaluate the just sheer logics of the fact that we have a thriving, healthy relationship. I love you more than anything. You love me more than anything, and have all the evidence in the world to support that. There is no reason for me to fuck up any of that by bringing this stuff back up. It didn't when we got back together, and it doesn't now. And so the challenge I have for this individual is just like, I don't think you need to work on trusting your partner if they're giving you evidence that you should trust them, because you've chosen trust in this reconciliation. Mm-hmm. And the best way to live your life is to live as if you fully trust them, because that is what you will manifest, is a partner who is trustworthy. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it won't bleed into other spots of your life. And so be aware of your patterns, be aware of the loop of not being able to trust. When those moments come up where you're trying to protect yourself because you are concerned for maybe sabotage or something along those lines, and just be conscious of it. But there's not a quick answer. It's like it gets better at times, and then it weirdly like shows up. And
I'll have those moments like, yeah, the wound is like healed, but there's still a scar there for both of us in different ways. And I'll have those moments too, where I'm just like in a moment of just pure adoration and love for you. And it can be like a really happy moment where we're like giggling and having a great time and being silly together. And I'll get a wave of sadness, knowing that I love you so much and I hurt you so much. So like holding both things, it's almost like I'm seeing another person, it was me, it was a version of me, but like, it's like I'm watching another person hurt you. And it just, in those moments, like, I've had it overwhelm me to the point of tears. And it's just such a fucking weird thing to try to explain. And there's no like quick answer. I will say, we didn't do this. This wasn't a thing for us, because the way that you handled it and the way that I carry myself in our relationship now. But if she needs, assuming that it was dude guy, I don't know if it was her or if it was him, but say it was him. If she needs whatever she needs, if she needs more communication when he's out with the boys or whatever, in order to like fully let go of that fear of it happen again. I don't know the circumstances again, but like, you're entitled to tell your partner, okay, if we're moving forward, I'm going to be really honest about like, here's what I need from you in order to fully let go of that fear or that wound. And it's going to be different for every person. We didn't really have that conversation of like specifics, but other people might need that depending on what the circumstances are.
If you've got a serial, once a cheater, always a cheater, which can apply in many, many cases, I think those are important.
Yeah.
If you're with someone who's got an actual like sexual addiction, right?
Sure.
Like there are boundaries that their lack of impulse control will not be able to overcome on their own. Mm-hmm. That the boundaries need to be in place if you want to be in the relationship. Right. From my seat, it was kind of like, yo, you want to do this or not? I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Irrationally doing this. And I'm balls out, meaning I'm gonna give balls out trust with the like it is that irrationality that has made this become the most catalyzing opportunity that I could have ever imagined for a relationship. Like, you want to talk about love, transcend this.
Yeah, and I felt the weight of that. I felt the weight of what you just said, like that choice to I'm just gonna trust you, like. That has some weight in the world. Because
you build up resentment if I'm giving you a rules list. I think it might work for a minute, but eventually you're like, Jesus Christ, why am I doing this?
Sure. I think it depends on the situation and the details or whatever. But like, it was like I had this beautiful gift and I just wanted to like nurture it and take care of it to the best of my ability. And I wasn't going to fuck it up for anything. So I knew how blessed I was to have you back in my life. And I knew that I was the best thing for you.
And I think there was ownership on both of our, and during our reconciliation, there was ownership in what led to the deterioration of the relationship. Like,
you don't just wake up one day and think, I'm going to do this. This sounds fun.
No. Now there's a lot of scorekeeping that we've chosen not to do. But what I took ownership on was not being able to interpret the feedback that you were giving me and make choices to respond that would have potentially kept you from doing the things that happened. I'm not interested in saying, it was 50-50 or not, because I don't necessarily agree with that, but I definitely think it was important for our part two, for me not to live or make you think that it was all your fault, or live as if it was all your fault, because there was equity in what led to this that had everything to do with my ownership of.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not saying like, oh yeah, it was 50-50. My point is that most people don't just wake up and think, this sounds like a fun thing to do today, I'm going to do it. It's usually like small little incremental things. And I think that's an important part of the conversation to have for these people, is like getting to like the root of like, why? What was the thing? Well, it's the thing behind the thing here. Because if you don't understand that, what's to say it won't happen again, So I think that that's part of a healthy conversation, is like giving the person space to explain, like, where were you at when this happened? Like, psychologically, like what was happening in your inner world? How do we take steps to prevent that in the future? So, hopefully that helps.
Not easy question.
No, honestly, it's we've had a few of these, rebuilding trust questions after infidelity or whatever, and I've just been avoiding them because it's not fun to talk about. Right. But I understand that it's important and that a lot of people deal with this. So if we, shedding a little light on our experience and how we've worked through it helps another couple, great.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.